You ready?
We've been ready for a long time.
I've been waiting a long time to ask this too. I have a wonderful life, and I have many periods of being in the vortex and feeling really good.
Can you hear?
However, since I was a very young person, I've also had intense periods of extreme depression, incapacitating depression, and I've would really like to ask Abraham for help with preventing further episodes and for living out the rest of my life in the vortex.
First, we want to say that only someone who has experienced the ecstasy of the vortex could ever experience the agony of not being in it. Because if you don't know one, you can't know the other. Now, we're not saying that you have to know the agony if you know the ecstasy. We're just saying it's not a bad thing that you know both ends of that spectrum or that stick. In other words, when you feel really, really good, then there is an equivalent bounce on the other side of that wave. So, how does that feel to you? In other words, hearing those words, does it make you feel less unpleasant about some of those bouts? Intellectually, we're not talking about when you're in the middle one. You're not in the middle one right now. And so, intellectually, doesn't that sound fine to you?
When I feel well, that sounds fine. When I don't feel well, everything feels a lot less than fine. And the biggest thing I've learned is just to have compassion for where I am in the moment and reach for positive thoughts, but it's very incapacitating being in that state where I can't.
It's also not an easy thing to reach for a thought that feels like this when you are over in the frequency of this, because law of attraction isn't helping you out with bright, fluffy thoughts when you're over here in despair. In other words, you don't have access to that. It's like you've got your tuner tuned differently. And so, logically speaking, what makes the most sense? Should you just ride about and keep trying? Or would it be better for you to just let go of trying to think yourself into a better place and just remind yourself in a sort of general sense that you often do feel better? The first thing we want to say to you is that if you ever find yourself in that sort of negative experience, if you can go general in your thought, the knot will ease up just a little bit. And we want you to consider, you may not be able to feel this fully in the context of this conversation, but over the next few days, watch for opportunities to ponder this. When you are feeling really, really good, it's because you've focused yourself really, really specifically inside the vortex. In other words, the more specific you get when you're in the vortex, the higher and higher and higher the frequency goes. But it's true when you're out of the vortex. The worse you feel, the more specifically you have focused. In other words, it would be like sort of not feeling that good and then calling someone that you always like to commiserate with. And when the two of you start talking, you get more detailed about what's bothering you because you put more words to it. And then, because now you've got someone to talk to, you want to entertain further, so you put more drama to it, and then they add their drama to it, and now someone else joins it. In other words, can't you acknowledge that you're getting more and more specific as you're feeling worse and worse and worse? So, finding a specific, really good thought isn't even possible because the frequencies aren't anywhere near where you are. You'd be shooting in the dark, and you usually don't find it. But if you could get general instead of specific, you'll start to feel some relief from it right away. So that's enough in terms of what to do about it. We want to talk to you about the vibrational law behind all of this. So we're going to appeal to you in a different way than you would imagine, and in a fun way that as you hear it and then ponder it later, and especially if you're ever finding yourself taking a vibrational nosedive, it will really, really help you. So think about a trampoline. Jerry spent a good deal of time on a trampoline. they are playing doodle jump incessantly on their iPhone or iPad. In other words, they're bouncing from platform to platform. If you don't have it, don't get it. And one of the things that has come up in this conversation is, as you've bounced up, it's logical that you're going to bounce down. And when you bounce down, if your trampoline is in order, and if you are focused about the way you're coming down to it, you're going to take a really nice bounce up, which is really quite fun. In fact, it's way fun. You couldn't bounce up if you didn't bounce down. And since bouncing up is way fun, was there anything wrong with bouncing down?
I'd just like the down to be much less extreme, please.
But wait. If the down is less extreme, then the up is less extreme. Because when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. In other words, so just consider it not in terms of trauma that you've been feeling. Just consider it in terms of this analogy. See yourself coming down and see yourself focused and clear, and here's this trampoline that's going to give you a wonderful lift up, and as you're lifting up, you know that maybe you're going to come down, but you're going to go up, and you're going to go down, and you're going to go up, and you're going to go down. And if you're thinking about a trampoline rather than a manic depressive situation, bipolar thing, which you don't have, but if you're thinking of it in terms of a trampoline, isn't it all good? Isn't it all good? And what's the only thing that makes the up and down of a trampoline not good? Can you think of anything that would make it not good? How about being out of focus, off in the bushes? Or how about being unfocused and just collapsing into the trampoline and getting no lift from it at all? In other words, so the experience of life in and of itself can be really, really fun. Now, what you're helping us to deliver, and we are so pleased to do it so early in our conversations together with all of you, is that as we've been talking to you, and some of you have been listening to us for a while about knowing what you don't want and knowing what you do want, some of you have been feeling a little uncomfortable that there has to be a downside to anything. In other words, does there really have to be such a downside to expansion? And what we want you to understand is, as you begin allowing the vortex to tune your frequencies 15 minutes a day, as you allow the vortex to tune your frequencies, you know what you've done? You've prepared your trampoline. You've made yourself ready for what life throws at you. You've made yourself focused so that you're having fun on your way down, you're having fun on your way up, because you've got a handle on it. You're not out of control. There are not unknown forces or factors that are preventing you from soaring and being the deliberate creator that you are. And that really is what is at the heart of all plummeting. It's a feeling of despair that comes about from feeling that you're not in control, or from feeling that you're not worthy of good things coming, or but mostly it is the fear or the depression that comes from a sense of powerlessness that is all about not being focused into the vibrational accuracy of who you are. So now that was quite a mouthful, and you're all listening and receiving it at different levels of your being. So now we want to speak what we just said to you in really easy to apply terms. Let your vortex tune you every day. You'll never plummet again. Because if you let your vortex tune you, then you're ready. You feel different on the way down. In other words, imagine how you feel if you're plummeting from the sky and you know you have no parachute and you know there's no trampoline. You'd feel afraid, and you'd feel mad at yourself for not planning better, and you would feel a little bit like what you were describing. But what about if you're plummeting and you know that you have a parachute, or you know that there is a trampoline? What if you did this on purpose? What if You put yourself in this life situation on purpose. What if you expanded on purpose even when you weren't ready? Because you have this base of knowledge that says it's always going to be all right for me, because my inner being always has my back, because well-being is the basis of what I live, you see. That's what's going to happen to so many of you as you don't try so hard to think your way into the perfection that you've decided that you're supposed to achieve. And instead, you allow yourself to be a vibrational match to the vibrational rhythm of the source within you. And it is our promise to you that next time you're falling, you'll be saying, we. You'll be saying, part of the process. You'll be saying, the further I fall, the more I bounce up. And the bounce up, and the bounce down, and the bounce up, and the bounce down, and the bounce up, and the bounce down are all part of my deliberate process, and I'm focused within all of it, you see. Yes? Really?
Yes.